defensive players. Defensive back Trey Dickerson and defensive lineman Kenai Anderson. Then in our final segment with the head coach, we'll talk about this week's game against the Green Bay Blizzard, and that'll be at the Denny Sanford Premier Center on Saturday at 7:05. And you can hear that game right here on FM 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio KWSN. And as a public service announcement, just to let all you guys listening know, this coming Sunday is Mother's Day weekend. Now make sure that you go out and get something for your mom, your wife, your girlfriend. But if you don't, there's no worries. Everything will be just fine in your life in about a year. The Kurtis Riggs Show is proudly presented each week by the official Storm Sports Medicine provider, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls, and also by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. Coming up next, he is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, and you're listening to the Kurtis Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN.
Is it time to sell your equipment? Sell it on AuctionTime.com, the best resource for selling farm equipment, construction equipment, trucks, and trailers. Powered by Tractor House, Machinery Trader, and Truck Paper, Auction Time brings you the largest audience of bidders from across the country and around the world. Get more for your equipment. See our current listings at AuctionTime.com or call 800-334-7443.
You're listening to the Kurtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And every week, our opening interview with the Storm head coach, Kurtis Riggs, is brought to you by the great folks over at Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. They've been Storm sponsors since day one. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Come see what fresh really is. It's baked fresh, sliced fresh, and delivered fresh. It's Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, number one in the delivery sales for Good Sense franchise system for the past 20 years. That's Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtis Riggs. Coach, back in town after a quick trip down to Illinois. It was kind of a long trip, wasn't it?
You know, after winning, it still seemed like a long trip home. Going down wasn't too bad, but it's nice to have those long trips done, though.
Oh, yeah, there's only one more left. It's going to be just to Des Moines, which is a lot closer than what we've been doing, so it's going to be good to be back at the Denny Sanford Premier Center. Starting this Saturday is the Storm going to be entertaining the Green Bay Blizzard. But over the weekend, it was a full schedule of games on Saturday, very unusual for the IFL. And the first game we'll talk about, Bismarck, was at Green Bay. Green Bay got the win 48-39. Green Bay is the Storm's next opponent, and they're just one game behind the Sioux Falls Storm. Anything about that game that was interesting?
You know, I watched some of it, and it looked like Bismarck played pretty well. I mean, it was a back-and-forth game up till the end. Bismarck just couldn't get a score when they needed to. They had a chance. But, yeah, for the most part, Green Bay continues to find ways to win the games, and you know, are sitting just a game behind.
And we'll be talking about the Green Bay Blizzard a little bit later on in the Kurtis Riggs Show. Also playing on Saturday, Cedar Rapids went over to Des Moines to take on the Barnstormers. Iowa victorious 43-18. Iowa one game just ahead of the Sioux Falls Storm, and we'll be playing them in June. So any things about that game that was interesting?
You know, I didn't watch any of that game, Rich. You know, the thing you just saw is that Cedar just seems to continue to go. At one point, you know, they played Arizona tough.
Uh-huh.
And it seems like since that game, either with roster changes or whatever, they've kind of just fallen apart. You know, they lost to Bismarck. They lost to San Diego. They don't seem to be competitive now at this point in the season.
And then another game that went on, San Diego, was at Tucson. No surprise there. Tucson victorious 54-34. But a very interesting game in Arizona as the Danger from Nebraska went down to Arizona, and the Rattlers were victorious by 10. But with 4 minutes left to go in the game, Nebraska pulled to within 3. Tell us about that game.
Well, I haven't watched, but, you know, the thing that I've noticed with the games here recently is that Tommy Armstrong's playing better football. And it looks like, Nebraska was able to get Giemba frustrated, and he came out, didn't play very well. Definitely didn't play like he looked against us. And they made the switch to, you bring in your backup quarterback who's the reigning MVP of the league. And Drew came in, and it looks like he played pretty well.
Yeah, Powell had 3 rushing touchdowns. He had 1 passing touchdown. Armstrong actually had 3 interceptions, and along with his 3 touchdowns during the course of that game. Went down. Nebraska was driving. They got down to the 4-yard line. Then a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty backed him up, and then Armstrong was intercepted on the following play. And then 37 seconds left. Arizona ran out the ball. So the standings right now: Arizona 9-0, Iowa 8-1, Sioux Falls 7-2, Green Bay 6-3, just a game back. Nebraska's just a game back of Green Bay at 5-5, Tucson's 4-5, and Quad City a game behind Tucson 3-6, and then Bismarck 2-7, San Diego 1-8, and Cedar Rapids 1-9. So there's a long way to go. But one thing I wanted to talk about as far as the playoffs are concerned, they're in the distance, but depending upon standing and location where the teams are, will affect the plays and the playoff game schedule, won't it?
It will for the first round. Yeah, for the 3, 4, 5, 6 seeds, the location is instrumental on trying to keep the cost down a little bit. So 3 and 4 will have home games, and then it's just which team is closer with 5 and 6 on who you would play. And if it's something that's really not that close, that big of a difference, then they would go by the seedings. But if it is, then they'll have the closer team go just to help the owners save some costs.
Totally understand that. Well, Coach, when we come back, we'll talk about that game down in Quad City this past Saturday. Stay tuned, Coach. You're listening to...
If you like to bowl, roll on into Eastway Bowl. Hey, wait a minute. Eastway Bowl is more than just bowling. It's a full of fun entertainment center. There's many things to do. Games, and more games, plus food. Great food. Come into our full-service sports bar and grill where you'll find terrific drinks with our popular late-night specials. Watch all your favorite sporting events at Eastway. Visit our website to make your bowling reservations and find out more about the full fun experience. Eastway Bowl and Entertainment Center, where there's something for everyone.
You're listening to the Kurtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And the Storm Weekly Recap is brought to you by Eastway Bowl, the perfect spot for family fun. Eastway Sports Lounge, the official sports and Storm road game viewing party hosts. And the next viewing party is going to be Saturday, June 8th, as the Storm travels to Des Moines, Iowa, to take on the Barnstormers. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm. Kurtis Riggs, you take your team down to Moline, Illinois, and you wind up with a win over the Quad City Steamwheelers, 59-46. When you think about the game, when you looked at it, what were the things that you liked about what your team did in performance, and maybe some things that you did not like?
Well, what I liked, Rich, was I thought defensively for 3 3/4 of a quarter, we did a nice job of taking away the big play. I thought we made it hard on their quarterback, and I thought offensively we played really well, especially third downs. We were really good on third downs, even when they were third and long. What we didn't do well was fourth quarter, late in the game, they're going to throw. They're down by multiple scores, and we give up, a deep touchdown when you know exactly what they're going to do. That was very frustrating. And then, Damian Ford getting hurt was frustrating to see that, him get his ankle rolled up on, just because kind of a blooper thing where he hits the wall, kind of dislodges the ball a little bit. He goes to catch it and slows down, and the guy rolls up on his ankle.
How is he doing thus far? Do you know?
He's doing okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll get him in for some tests and take a look at it. But, lose him for the rest of the game, it's just something where I thought the guys stepped up, did a great job. Trayvon came in and played very well for us.
Your defense did have forced 3 field goal attempts. They only made 1, so you had 2 stops there. You had 2 turnovers on downs, so you had 4 stops for the game. Tell us about your offense.
Well, I thought Lorenzo played very well. I thought, Brandon Shepard and Kent Shelby both kind of dominated the game. And then even Trayvon, Trayvon had 2 drops, but came back with a nice touchdown catch after that. And our O-line did a really good job giving Zoe a lot of time to look downfield and stretch the field a little bit.
And you scored on all drives but one, and that was the one where Ford was tackled and he fumbled, and you did not score on that one. But otherwise, 8 drives, all drives but one. You had 8 touchdowns and a field goal. We'll go to the highlights, and here's our first highlight.
Hilliard puts Stewart through the box. Stewart gets the hit. Oh, is he hit and absolutely leveled there by the Sioux Falls Storm, Trey Dickerson. Oh, my, the crowd's oohing about that one.
The game really seemed to be a very physical game. A lot of big hits, and it was great to see that physicality, I think, for your defense.
It was. Yeah, it was good to see guys take chances, too. Trey just took a chance and shot in on the run play and was able to blow it up. You used to see Trice Crump do that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was nice to see that. I thought T.J. Neal played a really nice game at middle linebacker. And I thought overall, schematically, the guys seemed more comfortable.
Here's our next highlight.
Now the Storm break camp. Campbell to the right of Lorenzo Brown. Shotgun formation, 2 in motion, right slot. Lorenzo Brown option, pitches it out to Campbell, cuts inside at the 10 to the 5 into the end zone. Yes, touchdown! Kalen Campbell on a toss to the right side, an option play, and the Sioux Falls Storm marched down 45 yards in 3 plays.
And that was a great drive, and that's why I left that last part on there. You went down the field in 3 plays, made good positive yardage every time, and Kalen Campbell's was the only rushing touchdown for the Sioux Falls Storm in that contest. Was that by design or just the way the game played out?
But it was actually right before half. So, we did a nice job. Guys, whatever play we were doing, we hit Kent Shelby on a long pass. He was able to get the ball stretched out to get out of bounds. And then we had nice blocking outside. There was about 20-some seconds left, so we knew we had time to run the ball.
Okay.
And so, we wanted to get Kalen outside. It was tough to run inside against that big nose guard.
Oh, yeah.
So we were able to get him out. We had good blocking, and he got in, and we left about 15 seconds on the clock.
Talking about big nose guard, 6'6", 385 pounds. Our next highlight is actually a collage of 4 different third down conversions, but that's one of the things that you had mentioned earlier was the importance of the third down. Here are 4 of them, abbreviated, however.
Third down and 18. Lorenzo Brown, Cox fires end zone all by himself. Shelby caught it. Touchdown. Holy, help me, Hannah. Was Shelby open? It is 3rd and long for the Sioux Falls Storm. Storm only lead by 6, 45-39. Right side, back to pass. Lorenzo Brown fires upfield. Caught by Shepard at the 25. Spins out of a tackle, gets down inside the 20, down to the 18-yard line. A huge 3rd down conversion. Now the Storm 3rd down and 12 from the Steamwheeler 21-yard line. There's a pass caught downfield. Shelby caught it at the 7-yard line, and that's a first down by 2 yards. Oh, my. 3rd and goal from the 10-yard line. Lorenzo Brown rolls right, throws end zone. Caught, touchdown! Holy, help me here. They got that to Chapman in the right corner of the end zone. Oh, my.
And one of the things that I wanted to talk about as far as the third down conversions, it was great to pick them up, long situations, long converts. But sometimes on the bad side, you think about it, why are you in a long third down situation? So it kind of cuts both ways. Tell us about that.
You're right. Yeah, and you and I talked about after the game, against some of the better teams, this is not a situation you want to be in. But even against good teams, you do get in those situations sometimes. For some reason, we found ourselves in those situations a lot against Quad Cities. And it's kind of like, we're making mental mistakes, and then, we're able to turn it on, overcome, and get the big third down.
And here's our final highlight.
Down on 12 yards to go. They need the 25 to pick up the first down. 1:20 on the clock. And the ball is resting at the 12. Hilliard back to pass. Under pressure, hit and dropped. As getting in there was Malcolm Goins.
And that was the only sack of the contest for the Sioux Falls Storm. And but you did get pressure on Hilliard. He did look uncomfortable at times, especially the first 3 quarters.
I thought one thing we did really well, Rich, was we got him off his point. A lot of quarterbacks like to drop back, have a comfortable point where they can work back up into the pocket and be able to see the field in a very relaxed fashion. And we did a nice job of getting Hilliard to where he had to move laterally. We didn't let him just set up, see the field, step up, and make throws. He had to move around, and that's just enough for some quarterbacks.
Well, Coach, it was a great road win. Any final thoughts about the game where the Storm beat the Steamwheelers 59-46?
I thought against a team that we should beat, we did a nice job of getting ahead, staying ahead, and making sure we didn't really give them a chance.
Hey, that's succinct. And that wraps it up very well. Congratulations on the win. When we come back later on the broadcast, we'll be talking about the Green Bay Blizzard. Thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks, Rich.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtis Riggs. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Trey Dickerson, and you're listening to the Kurtis Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN.
Hey guys, Bellator lightweight champion Michael Chandler here. I'm here at one of my favorite places in the entire world, the wrestling room. But if there's one thing we know about wrestling rooms, they can get extremely dirty. We're talking skin infections, we're talking about funk, we're talking about smelly armpits, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. So, my friends at Pure and Clean Sports came up with an awesome solution. Spray it right on your skin, wipe it off, smells great, keeps you clean from the time you leave the mats to the time you can get home and shower. Not only is it the greatest skin defense in the entire world, it's the safest. Check them out, pureandcleansports.com.
First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking gives you the freedom to bank anywhere with online account opening, instant issue debit cards, and no unpleasant surprises. Apply online or at any branch location. First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking. Member FDIC.
You're listening to the Kurtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And this player interview is brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And after we go to break after the interview, we'll take your third call, 336-1230, 4 free tickets to the Storm's next home game. That's this Saturday against the Green Bay Blizzards. Again, 336-1230 is the number. Joining us via the fan line, he is a defensive back with the Sioux Falls Storm, Robert Dickerson III, but we call him Trey. Trey, thanks for being on the Kurtis Riggs Show.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Trey, they call you that because you were the third. Were you ever known as Robert or Bob?
Not Bob. I've got a few jokes growing up. A few people call me Bob, but as far as I can remember, I've always been Trey. There's a few people that know my father and my grandfather that call me Little Robert.
Oh, sure.
But mainly it's always been Trey for me.
Well, where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in the east side of Houston, Texas. Lived there for about 12 years, and going into high school, when I was about 14, I moved to Dallas, Texas.
Oh, you did? Okay. So where did you go to college?
I ended up playing at Emporia State in the middle of Kansas. It's a Division II school in the MIAA.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your time moving from Texas up to Kansas to play football at Emporia State.
Oh, man, it was a big culture shock for me. Growing up in the inner city most of my life and being around, a lot of big buildings and just a lot of fast life. Moving to a small town of about 25,000 people was just a big culture shock, but it was something that I grew up a lot being around that, and it was definitely something that I can say that looking back on definitely improved my life for the better.
One thing that had to be for you is the difference in the view you had. You talked about all the buildings that you had growing up in inner city Dallas, and then you get out to Emporia. I mean, you can see forever in parts of Kansas.
Oh, man. I mean, when you travel in Kansas, if you go about an hour or anywhere, you're not seeing anything. In Texas, you go down the highway, well, not any part of Texas, but mainly Dallas, Houston, the bigger inner cities. You go down the highway, you're seeing all type of different cities, different homes, so many different things. And I actually grew up in a Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston, which was in the middle of downtown. And I would go there after school. I would be there in the summer. My mom worked in the middle of downtown, right by the Minute Maid baseball stadium. And I would be around that every day. So I was really in the inner city. But Kansas is a beautiful place, and I learned a lot about different people. I learned different cultures, just different. It was a big culture shock for me, but it was for the better for me.
Well, tell us a little bit about your playing days down at Emporia State.
Oh, man, I originally actually came in as a offensive player. I always grew up as a running back or a receiver. My dad was a running back, my cousin was a running back, and growing up, Eric Dickerson is actually my cousin as well. People would tell me that.
Really?
So I always had to, oh yeah. In the back of my mind, people would always tell me, "Oh yeah, that's your cousin. Your dad played running back. He was so good." So I refused to play defense. And in high school, they were telling me, while I was starting to get recruited and starting to get picked up on, every single school, and I mean every school, they came to me and they're like, "Have you ever played corner? Have you ever played defensive back or anything?" And I always say no. I turned down a lot of people. And when I ended up going to Emporia State, I actually went there as a running back because there was one of the few schools that offered me as an offensive player. And I redshirted my first year, and the year after, they moved me to corner.
Oh, really? So what did all of these different coaches see in you that they felt that you should play cornerback instead of running back, even though you're Eric Dickerson's relative? What would you say was his cousin, a cousin of yours?
Yeah, he's a second cousin of mine.
Second cousin. But anyway, what did all these coaches see in you that they felt that you should be playing defense instead of offense?
Oh, man, I think it had to have been my length. I was always a long, lean kid. I didn't fit the running back profile. I didn't look like a running back at all. Maybe a receiver, you could see that a little bit. But it was the length, and I always had great speed, always had great feet, and great hips. I was always a multi-sport athlete, and basketball was always a big sport for me. So the ability to get to the ball or see the ball or get up for the ball was always a great trait of mine.
One of the highlights we had in the first segment with the head coach was your hit of the running back down in Moline, Illinois during the Steamwheeler game, and that was a huge hit. Tell us about that.
Oh, man, going back to the game before against Arizona, the running game is a new game to me, so I'm just picking up the nuances. I've always been a guy to study film and study tendencies and stuff like that, but it hit me that Arizona game I wasn't studying as much as I felt like I should have been. And I had to talk with Coach Riggs a few times this past week, and I had to talk with a few of the other coaches we have about playing smart, putting yourself in the right position, seeing tendencies, seeing things. And it just came down. I had watched a lot of film on them this coming week, and I saw a tendency that they like to do. And once I saw it, I didn't think about it once. I just went for it and made the play.
Oh my! That was amazing. It was a big hit, and I made the comment afterward. The crowd was even oohing about that one after it was all over. It was such a big hit. But one of the questions that I had for you was the difference between playing fast or playing smart, and you already answered that question. That playing smart is a better way to play, isn't it?
Oh man, it's so much of a bigger difference, because at this level you got so many athletes that are. They're fast. They're just as fast as you. They jump just as high as you, and they're doing all these things just like you. But it's like, what can you separate to make yourself a better player? And that's something that I pride myself on, wanting to move up to another level, wanting to be the best player I can be. I want to get the biggest advantage that I can. So being smart, I mean, it's probably up there as high. Mental game is probably more important than the physical game when you're talking about football, honestly, at this level.
We're talking with Trey Dickerson, defensive back with the Sioux Falls Storm. Where's number 22? Who's tougher to cover, a tall or a short wide receiver?
Oh, man, I've gotten this one before. That really is one of the toughest questions as a defensive back, because it's so hard for both of them. You get a quick guy, smaller, quick guy. You know, you got to be real patient on him, but you want to be physical with him. You know, but you're too physical with him, then he might sit fast on you. So you got to really focus on your technique with them. With bigger guys, you know, you have to be physical with them. But maybe if you want to, if you have enough speed, you could play him a little bit slower, or whatever the case may be. If you could jump with him, you feel like you can jump with him, you can play him a little bit slower. But even that is hard, just because they have so much of an advantage on you. So I want to say, I'll just say the quicker guy, just because it's a game of speed nowadays. So when you go and get somebody with speed, you have to respect the speed. You can't take that away.
I've often asked offensive linemen if they've ever held anybody. Everybody says no. My question to you is, have you ever had pass interference on somebody that didn't get called?
Nah, it hasn't happened.
Okay.
No, there's been times where I can say, yes, that's definitely part of pass interference, but that's definitely a part of playing defensive back that some people don't take advantage of. That there's some things that you can do that the ref might see, and you can get away with it if you learn how to take advantage of some of those things.
Well, if you use your body instead of your hands and you don't stretch the jersey, that makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Right.
Well, I tell you what, Trey, great to have you on the Kurtis Riggs Show. My best to you the rest of this season. I always enjoy watching you play.
Hey, well, thank you.
Trey Dickerson with the Sioux Falls Storm defensive back. When we come back, we'll be talking with Kenai Anderson, a defensive lineman with the Sioux Falls Storm, and we'll take your third call, 336-1234, free tickets courtesy of Lewis. We'll be back right after this.
If you haven't been to
Your body is a complex arrangement of bone and tissue that requires only the best to maintain it. At Orthopedic Institute, that's our specialty. Our services have been specifically tailored to provide the best orthopedic care in the region. Orthopedics is what we do. That's why Orthopedic Institute is the one to trust to keep your body in motion.
You're listening to the Kurtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And this segment of the Kurtis Riggs Show brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And after we go to break, we'll have a ticket giveaway for the game coming up on Saturday against this Storm hosting the Green Bay Blizzard. And call, getting 4 free tickets. Third caller at 336-1230. Joining us via the fan line, he is a defensive lineman with the Sioux Falls Storm, Kenai Anderson. Kenai, thanks for being on the Kurtis. Good. How about you?
Can't complain.
Well, I tell you what, I wanted to find out a little bit about you, introduce you to the fans of the Sioux Falls Storm. Where did you grow up?
Well, I'm originally from Norfolk, Virginia.
And then where did you go to college after that?
And I originally started at Old Dominion University.
Okay.
And I transferred to Towson University my last 2 years.
Now, where is Towson?
Towson is in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, my. So that was quite a change for you from where you grew up?
Yeah, definitely.
Tell us what it was like when you went up to Baltimore after growing up in West Virginia.
No, Norfolk, Virginia.
Or Norfolk?
Okay. Norfolk, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes. Well, like I said, it wasn't that much of a change. You know, for the most part, Maryland and Virginia, to me, you know, DMV area, you know, as far as, you know, the weather and, you know, everything is fine. The environment was a little different, you know, but I mean, from my experience, it was a great one. You know, Old Dominion and Towson. I mean, of course, Old Dominion was at a higher level. You know, there was FBS. Towson was FCS. You know, so I kind of transferred down. But for the most part, that was basically the only difference I had.
Sure. Now we're number 44. You're 6'1", you're 265. You're not the biggest defensive lineman. So what do you do to play big like I've seen you play?
Well, the good thing about being 6'1" and going against other linemen is I have a better leverage. I'm under their pad, so that gives me an advantage. My biggest thing for me is also my get off. It's imperative that I have a great get off because if the bigger guys get their hands on me, then it can be a bit of a problem to try and get the 330-pound or 350-pound lineman off of me. So my biggest thing is my get off and my speed, and just making sure that I keep their hands off of me. And it's been quite a change for me because, like I say, having the line head up was a little different versus in college. I'm able to line up to a shade and play half a man. So I had to kind of learn how to use my hands and hand placement and being up under the lineman to be able to compete with some of the bigger linemen.
Talking with Kenai Anderson, defensive lineman with the Sioux Falls Storm, on the Kurtis Riggs Show, and you talk about the difference in playing college football and playing in the indoor football league. People don't realize that basically if you're lined up as a defensive end, you got the same guy across from you all game long, and you get to know the guy pretty well, don't you?
Yeah, it's definitely different because, like I say, it's basically when you play an arena ball, is me against that guy every play, and so it's basically who wants it more. You don't have no opportunity to kind of like take the plays off because even with college ball and arena ball, you'll have like stunts and gaps that you can play in scheme wise versus in arena league it's me versus him. It's 3-on-3, so there's no way to kind of finesse a stun or just going around them because like I say, even if you take the wrong step, it opens up a seam that allows the quarterback to step up and run, or you have to almost contain the quarterback while trying to not give up too much ground as well. So it's quite different. But as the season progresses, I've kind of adapted and learned how to play to the arena rules, and the game speed is a lot faster as well because the plays come back to back to back versus college or they get breaks and kind of the game is a lot slower. So.
Well, one thing about it, some of these offensive linemen are so big. If you're going to go around them, it's going to be about a half a block around them, and you're going to be out of the play.
Exactly.
So has there ever been an offensive lineman that held you?
Well, you pretty much get help every play. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's easy for it's an offensive league. The ref, I feel like the refs want to see them score, and a lot of times the O-lineman can get away with kind of doing a little hold, and especially with us having to line up a certain way, they're able to put their hands on us versus doing a drop step. And even sometimes I may beat a guy with my speed, but a quick little tug of my jersey or maybe a yank at my shoulder pads would kind of slow it down, and it gives the quarterback just enough time to get it off because, like I said, the quarterback, the decision-making is a lot faster. So, like I said, to get the sacks and the TFLs, if you get one, then, it's great because it's that much harder to get, bigger plays like that.
One final question for you, Kenai Anderson, on the Kurtis Riggs Show, is the fact, when you've been playing across that guy all game long, how often can you pick up a tell from him that you can see that it's going to be a running play or it's going to be a pass play?
Well, see, that comes with preparation. One thing the coaches, emphasize on is watching film. So you kind of watch film and you get tendencies on certain players. And, after watching film, it's hit or miss. Some of the better O-linemen, like the Arizona teams, it's a little bit harder to distinguish if it's going to be run or pass off of how they're lining up. And, then some of the other teams, they may have a guy who, based on how far his foot apart or his foot back or, and another thing, even with watching film, you can kind of sense what they're going to do off of the formation. And, so that just comes with preparation. I mean, at a professional level, you have to watch film and know your opponent so you know exactly what's coming.
Education is power, isn't it, when it comes to playing football, too?
Yes, sir.
Well, Kenai, great to have you on the Kurtis Riggs Show. Appreciate the way you play, and look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure.
Kenai Anderson, defensive lineman with the Sioux Falls Storm. We'll take your third caller, 336-1230. 4 free tickets, courtesy of Lewis, and we'll be back. This is KWSN.
Spring around the corner.
Waiting to see a doctor?
What's taking so long?
It can take a while.
I don't have time for this.
Or longer than a while.
We've been here 2 hours.
Forever.
Hello?
What would you say if there was another option?
Finally.
Yes.
It's about time.
We're inclined to agree. It's about time for the best patient care. Sioux Falls Urgent Care.
You're listening to the Kurtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And each week, our game preview interview with Storm head coach Kurtis Riggs is brought to you by our good friends over at Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. And they're on 917 South Cliff Avenue, working to further enhance deliveries in Sioux Falls by supplementing their delivery staff with a third-party delivery company, so you get your subs not only baked fresh, sliced fresh, but delivered fresh. That's Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtis Riggs. And, Coach, coming up this weekend on Saturday, the Green Bay Blizzard come to town, and it's the only meeting this year between the Storm and the Blizzard. That's a little bit different than we've had in the past.
It is. Yeah, we only play them and Cedar Rapids. And one time each. I mean, we played San Diego one time only too, but you're so used to a home and away with Green Bay and Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, I kind of missed that 10-hour trip up to Green Bay through the back roads of Wisconsin.
You know, I was talking to someone. The trip to Quad Cities is the same as the trip to Green Bay, but it seems like Quad Cities was a lot faster going out there.
Yeah, not nearly as many towns. We didn't have to stop as many times, for the back roads. You're literally traveling the back roads. Plus, you're dodging deer up there and all those other things. Well, Coach, Green Bay's only a game behind the Sioux Falls Storm. This is a very important contest, a great game to be playing at home. Green Bay comes into this contest. They have wins over Nebraska twice. They beat San Diego. They beat Bismarck, and they also beat Quad Cities twice. But the thing about that is Nebraska's wins have been Green Bay's wins have been only against one team with a winning record, and that was Nebraska. Tell us about the Green Bay Blizzard.
Well, the 2 wins were at Green Bay. They lost at Nebraska. But the thing you see is they play fast. I mean, they really fly around the field. They have a quarterback that can create a lot of problems. He's a very good runner and a pretty good passer. And then B.J. Hill, between kick return and what he does on offense, can still hurt you anytime he touches the ball.
Head coach Corey Roberson up there last year was 2-12, and they're 6-3 thus far this season. That's a tribute to him and what he has done in that program up there, because it was a struggle for several years.
Well, last year he took over during the season.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's tough because you're inheriting the recruiting of another coach, which can be very difficult at times. And I think now he's recruiting the players he wants to fit his system, and it seems to be paying off.
His quarterback, Lenoris Footman, has over 1,100 yards passing. He has around 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's also the leading rusher with 500 yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. So he can pick it up and carry it. He can wing it. He can do it about all, can't he?
He can. Yeah, I mean, he's very elusive, and he's a threat every time. I mean, you look at some of these quarterbacks in the league this year with Drew Powell now in the league, Armstrong in Nebraska, and this kid in Green Bay, Lorenzo. I mean, it looks like everyone's going to a dual threat style quarterback.
They do have 2 running backs that they've been splitting time with, Owens and Cass. Owens has 7 rushing touchdowns. Cass just has 1, but they do have 2 different running backs. I would imagine that Owens would be the main one that they would go to.
Yeah, I would think so. I think their biggest threat, though, is the quarterback running or B.J. Hill getting it with different styles of play.
The receivers, they have 3 good ones. B.J. Hill has 5 receiving touchdowns, Keshawn Taylor 4, and then Kenslow Smith has a total of 6. So when they've got 3 guys with about the same number of touchdown receptions, that shows that quarterback Footman does spread the wealth.
He will. Yeah, and it shows that they're more about the system rather than one player.
You know, you talk about B.J. Hill. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and then he came back out of retirement, and he still can run the ball amazingly well. However, this year, if I looked correctly, he has not had a kick return for a touchdown, so hopefully he's not due.
Well, I'm sure Coach Fields is really excited that you brought that up, Rich. But it'd be funny what kind of storm we could create if I all of a sudden said, hey, Charlie Sanders, Corey Johnson, Terrence Bryant, James Terry are all coming out of retirement. And what would happen in the league?
Oh, my.
Because, being Hall of Famers, it would be interesting to see if we decided to bring back these Hall of Famers to play. I don't think it would be near as I remember there being a little bit of an argument about BJ coming back, but then it was like, it's okay. But I would bet if we brought back some Hall of Famers, it wouldn't be received near as well.
I can definitely agree with you on that. Defensively, they've had 10 sacks, 9 interceptions. Defensive back Joe Powell and Deshaun Taylor each have 47 tackles. Taylor is the linebacker. They also have a Goldman. He has 41 tackles and 2 interceptions, another defensive back. Tell us about their defense, what you have to face from an offensive standpoint.
Well, it starts up front. They have an active D-line. And then, like I said, they have some fast, aggressive DBs. They really fly to the football. I think Coach Roberson's got them to where they play more as a unit rather than as individuals.
I would imagine one of the keys to the game is then to slow them down.
Well, I mean, we want to make them have to work for it. Yeah, we want to make them have to earn. I thought we did a good job against Quad Cities, making them have to earn things, making, Hilliard have taking away easy throws, and then most importantly, taking away the home runs. I think it's the same with Green Bay. I think you just need to be consistent on offense and then make them have to work for everything on defense.
What time is the bus? Oh, that's right. We don't go on the bus. We're at home this weekend. That's going to be good to be at home again, isn't it, Coach?
It will. The Stampede play Friday night and then play again Sunday, so we're able to squeeze a football game in between the Clark Cup, and we want to wish them good luck with that.
Absolutely, Coach. Take care. We'll talk to you on Saturday.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtis Riggs. When we come back, we'll wrap up the Kurtis Riggs Show, and you're listening to it right here on FM 98.1, AM 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN.
The Winklers thought they were prepared for the summer heat, but their perspiration would prove otherwise. The family had grown accustomed to the AC breaking down and improvising. But the not-so-silent hum of their makeshift AC was wearing thin. That's when it became clear it was time to call the service guys. Waterbury, we are service.
You're listening to the Kurtis Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And this is our final segment of the Kurtis Riggs Show. And this week, the Storm hosting the Green Bay Blizzard, and you can hear the game right here on KWSN, starting with the pregame show at 9:45. Big John Semchenko and I will have the call for you. Now, the Coaches Show is brought to you proudly each week by the official Storm sports medicine providers, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls, and also by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. Now, after we go off the air, we'll have Another Storm game ticket giveaway brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And we'll take the third call at 336-1230 for free tickets for the game this Saturday against the Green Bay Blizzard. I want to thank the head coach, Kurtis Riggs, along with our guest, Trey Dickerson, also Kenai Anderson. And again, remember, guys, it's Mother's Day weekend coming up. Make sure you remember Mom, your wife, or girlfriend, or whoever it is. Make sure that you get them something for Mother's Day, like I said at the start of the show. If you don't, it'll be okay in about a year. Thank you to John Michaels, our KWSN producer and engineer, making the Kurtis Rig run so smoothly. And also want to thank all of you for making us a part of your evening. We'll talk to you again next week, and you've been listening to the Kurtis Rig Show right here on FM 98.1 AM 1230. Sports Radio, KWSN. Good night, everybody.